This is Edge of the Box, a podcast brought to you by WhoScored.com.
Hello, welcome back to the Edge of the Box podcast, a podcast by WhoScored.com in association with Bet Victor. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by Martin Lawrence from Who Scored and Jonathan Wilson. And Martin, we'll start with you. Casual Thursday. Big Roma fan.
Yeah, well, you've worn Dortmund kits and stuff in the past. Those days, yeah. I didn't have anything ironed, and a football shirt doesn't need to be ironed, does it? So we're fine.
I expect a certain level of professionalism from the Who Scored representation, but it hasn't happened this week. Jonathan, you good?
Yes, fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, very well, thank you, Jonathan. All the better for seeing and talking to you. Let's start then with Chelsea against Manchester City. The Saturday lunchtime kickoff, not often the biggest game of the weekend, is on BT Sport. So Chelsea absolutely flying, Man City off to a decent start as well, Jonathan. But one player who hasn't really had a decent start and is having a bit of a funny time at the moment is Raheem Sterling. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, he had a bit of a strange end to last season as well. I mean, he didn't score in the final 2 months of the season for City, which is one of the reasons why there were so many questions about whether he should start for England at the Euros. And obviously had a great Euros, but he hasn't really reproduced that form for City yet this season. I think he's only started two of the 5 league games. There's this stuff about the captaincy group, which I don't know how seriously to take that, but there is a captaincy group of 5 players at the club who are Fernandinho, who's the club captain, then Diaz, De Bruyne, Gundogan and Kyle Walker. I'm not entirely certain what order they go in. And Sterling was part of that group and now he isn't. So that, I think, at the very least, is indicative of his declining status at the club. There was all those rumours about Real Madrid wanting him. I think there's now been rumours about Barcelona wanting him. And there was that very cryptic comment after the Croatia game at the Euros. When he referred to sort of other things going on at City when he was asked about not having scored for them for so long. So there's something odd happening there. I'm not entirely certain what it is or how serious it is, but certainly it's been a long time since he played really well for City.
Yeah, his kind of favourite position's been taken by Grealish. Grealish has started every league game so far, Martin. It really is a Sterling seems to have elevated himself for England. It's to be on the way down for Manchester City. It's a strange combination.
Yeah, I think one of Sterling's issues is, like you say, with Grealish coming in, I think Sterling's probably the weakest of those wide players or even those midfield players that tend to get played in the false 9 position. I don't think Sterling's good at it at all. I don't think he leads the line particularly well. Obviously, he played there against Southampton. That's now the 2 games that he started this season that City haven't scored in. Like I said, he led the line against Southampton. It's the 13th game that he's played against English top flight clubs up front as a centre forward. And Man City have only won 6 of them. So that's a 46% win rate, which is obviously doesn't sound awful, but for Man City, that's pretty bad. And like you say, yeah, he just looks more comfortable playing for England. He looks more confident, certainly looks more confident. I think that's always been an issue with Sterling is he goes through times of looking pretty hesitant in front of goal. And that's not been the case for England. I look back since the start of the 2018-19 season, 16 goals in 26 games for England at a conversion rate of 28%, which is phenomenal for a player who is criticised for his finishing a lot. A 28% conversion rate is excellent. In the same time, his conversion rate for Man City is only 18%, which isn't awful. It's not bad. But for a player who gets the sort of quality of chances that he often gets, it's not great. So like you say, he has been playing better for England than City for a little while now. Let's not forget he did score, I think it was 17, 18 and then 20 goals 3 seasons in a row for Man City and then dropped to 10 last season, I think it was. But he did end the season very badly. So, yeah, he's just maybe a hangover from that. But, yeah, he's just not relied upon like he is for England. And I think in terms of mentally, he's sort of maybe not dealing with that amazingly well. And that decision to drop him out of that leadership group is quite, like you say, maybe not read too much into it, but it's not the greatest message for someone who's not in the best of confidence for his club. So I think it does look interesting moving forward for him.
I am going to read a lot into it. I would take that as a real kick in the teeth if I was Raheem Sterling, to be honest, because he would be. I think he was 3rd captain last season.
What I don't know is I don't know how the voting structure works. if everybody gets one vote, then that could be the difference between two people voting for you and one person voting for you. If everybody gets 5 votes, maybe it's single transferable votes. I don't know. I mean, PR is a fascinating and multifarious thing. So I think we'd have to do a proper deep dive into the constitution of Manchester City squad and coaching staff before we make firm conclusions there. But the point is, it's of a piece with this sense that he's somehow not quite as central a figure as he was. And I think you see that happens with Guardiola quite a lot, that suddenly he just takes against a player and that's it. They sort of disappear. And it's happened a bit with Bernardo Silva. It sort of happened a bit with Aymeric Laporte, which, if this time last season would have seemed bizarre, but he's definitely, I know he's played a bit recently, but he's definitely not as central a figure as it looked like he was going to be. So there is something. I mean, I always feel with City, we magnify very small things because they're so good, and so you're looking for where are the flaws in this incredible machine, and maybe this is just that, but I think it's reasonable to suggest that things are pretty unsettled there, certainly as far as Sterling goes.
Jesus had a spell last season as well, where obviously he was the only striker and he was barely playing. You're right. I don't want to say a vendetta, because I don't think Pep's got a vendetta against Raheem Sterling, but he does seem to single people out at times and then not really involve them, and it looks strange from the outside. Not a great result for them last week either. Martin 0-0 at home to Southampton. Credit to Southampton for going there and grinding out the point, but that's the second game without getting 3 points for Man City this season. They could do with something against Chelsea now.
Yeah, they definitely could. And I think there was another one of those things where, obviously, when you're not scoring, the sort of spotlight shines on the fact that they didn't sign that striker, did they? And they're coming up against Chelsea, who did. And most people will see that as the difference going into this game, I imagine. I know the odds are basically, you can't separate them at all, but I think a lot of people will be just looking at that Lukaku, sort of the difference that he makes, and maybe leaning towards Chelsea with their home advantage. Obviously, Tuchel's won all 3 of his games against Man City since he came in as Chelsea coach, and done so very well, and maybe in a way that sort of people didn't expect. He's almost like he hasn't sat back. Basically, a lot of managers will sort of concede possession to City, and he hasn't really done that. They have had less possession in 2 of the 3 games, but they had more in 1. And in the other 2 games, with the scores even, it was very even in terms of possession, especially in the Champions League final. I think it was 52% possession City had up to the point where Chelsea took the lead just before half time, and then it swung towards about 60% by the end of the game. But that was naturally going to happen. So, yeah, he's gone toe to toe with Pep in many ways, and not been afraid to do so. So I think he's come out of those 3 games with a lot of credit. But the opposite could maybe be said of Guardiola, with some pretty strange selections. I know the league game between these sides came, I think, just 3 weeks before the Champions League final, and Pep played this mad team. He played a 3-1-4-2, I think, and that was with Sterling and Cancelo maybe in central midfield. It was very, very odd. And then obviously in the Champions League final, didn't play Rodri or Fernandinho, but also didn't play Cancelo, which was a big surprise as well. So over those 3 games, which all came in the space of six weeks, I think it was, played a different formation in each, and only 3 players started all 3 games. One of those was Edison, and the other 2 were Diaz and actually Sterling, ironically. So yeah, to only play 3 players in the same formation across those 3 games was quite odd, but maybe not so when you're talking about Pep Guardiola.
It is Pep roulette time on Saturday, Jonathan, and we all know about the Champions League final. They're not picking a single defensive midfielder. Does he double down this time and pick 2? I mean, God knows what he's going to do, but you think he's going to have to do something special to curtail Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea have looked incredibly impressive so far, and you City have a lot of injury issues as well. That there's doubts, at least, over Laporte, Stones, Zinchenko, Gundogan, Rodri. So that's 2 of your 3 potential holding midfielders and possibly not available. And I'm a huge fan of Fernandinho, but he is getting on, and I'm not sure I'd particularly want him alone trying to stop Stones and Havertz, for instance. So I think City have got big issues on Saturday. And that point you made before, but the fact they've dropped 4 points already, if you assume you need, let's say, let's say you can afford to drop 20 points over a season if you want to be champion, and maybe it's not even that many. But possible 114 points there. 94 is, I think, an absolute minimum to win the title in the modern age. Well, the 4 have gone. If, say, another 3 were to go, that's suddenly a third of all the points they can afford to lose gone within 6 games of the start of the season. So that Southampton game puts real pressure on them.
Yeah, as I say, excellent result for Southampton, but a few worrying signs for Manchester City. Have we got a combined 11, Martin?
We do indeed. You'll be pleased to hear. We've also got a formation that Jonathan might actually approve of. We've actually gone for the Chelsea formation of 3-4-2-1. And in goal, I guess this is a hot debate. And I wasn't his biggest fan at the start of when he came in. I not criticised him, but I thought people were getting carried away with how he performed. And this is Edouard Mendy, just because early on in his Chelsea career, obviously kept a lot of clean sheets, but had very, very little to do. But certainly this season, he's been busy heading into the game where he obviously missed out due to injury last weekend. No keeper had made more saves in the Premier League, so he's been kept busy this season certainly, and he's playing
They're
very,
all against
very
bloody
well.
Villa, Martin.
I know that was the highest rated performance from a goalkeeper this season for what
Excellent.
it's worth in the Premier League. So yeah, it's actually Mondi who gets the. I've said Mendy and Mondi, so Mondi. It's Mondi who gets the spot in goal for us based on rating since the start of last season, I should say. And then the back three, is Ruben Dias, Thiago Silva, and Antonio Rudiger. And then we have Cancelo and Marcos Alonso as the wing backs, Gundogan and De Bruyne in midfield, Mount and Grealish in support of Lukaku. And Jonathan is shaking his head at the thought of Gundogan and De Bruyne at the base of the midfield. But you got 3 pretty good centre-backs behind them. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I would say that's the best combined 11 that we've had.
Oh, hello. Look at that.
I would say.
High praise.
No,
you said,
no.
Didn't you say the last one was the worst, and that was the one that Jonathan actually quite liked?
Yeah, I did say that. From my point of view, the only way was up for the combined 11. But I think that's a strong 11, Jonathan. But your face looks aghast.
Well, it's just was a big hole at the back in midfield. It's what City did in the Champions League final. When will you learn?
But
there is three centre backs.
3 there.
Yeah, but you need something to protect in front of them. You can put up a beautiful curtain, but if there's nothing protecting the curtain, then the moths are going to fly straight to it. That's a terrible analogy.
But I know what you mean, though.
It's like having a very elegant promenade, but if you don't have a breakwater in front of the promenade, the waves are just going to overwhelm it eventually. So, I mean, it started well.
I'm confident in my breakwater.
The back three was a sensation. The back three
is what I would have gone for. Obviously, Diaz playing on the other side, but I think you can do that. I had Walker and Marcos Alonso as the wing backs, but basing only on this season. Cancelo, I think, probably would come in if I included last season. Jorginho and Kante at the back of midfield, because you have to control games. Like it's not. We're not Garth Cooks here.
You'd be too much Gareth Southgate here, though, Jonathan. I would say.
I mean,
how many defensive players do you want on the pitch?
5.
5, okay. You've answered me.
Yeah. And then De Bruyne went Mount behind Lukaku, and I had Edison in goal. But I mean that's
decent.
Just because his passing, I think, is better than Mondi's. Yeah. But I mean, obviously they're both very, very good goalkeepers.
I'm enjoying the new pronunciation of Mendy Monday this month.
Yeah, are we going to try and go full Brazilian for Edison?
Edison,
well, you did Fernandinho, so I want to hear Dan. Basically, I'm pressuring Dan to try and pronounce these names properly. Say how do you say Højbjerg?
As long as Højbjerg's not in the team, we're okay. I've actually said it right there for the first time ever. I'm confused now. I'm lost with where we are. Just talking about pronunciations. Martin, have you got a score prediction for us?
What is my score prediction? Yes, who scored? We have gone for 2-1 to Chelsea.
2-1 to Chelsea. And Jonathan?
2-0 to Chelsea.
I've gone 2-0 as well. I thought that was I didn't think anyone else would pick that. That's a bit frustrating. Oh well, never mind. Let's move on. Yeah.
We do have a bet builder for this game, Dan.
Oh, we've got a bet builder. I was going to say something else about about Chelsea only seem to struggle against Aston Villa, but yet they still managed to win both times. But I won't dwell on that too much. Go on and give me the bet builder.
So the bet builder, and it backs up all of our predictions. We have gone for Chelsea to win as the first leg of it. Obviously, Chelsea have won, like I said earlier, all three of their meetings with City since Tuchel took charge. City blowing a bit hot and cold, certainly in attack this season. And Chelsea look excellent at both ends. So we're back in Chelsea, but we are back in both teams to score, which you guys haven't. That's not the leg. The leg is actually Kevin De Bruyne to score. And that's based on the fact that he scored in his last 3 league appearances against Chelsea and each of his last 3 league games at Stamford Bridge. Enjoys playing against his former club and particularly in London. So we've got De Bruyne to score, Chelsea to win, and Jorginho to be carded. He's been booked more times against City than any other English club with 4, and he's been booked in all 3 of his league starts against them. So just 3 legs, but that has been boosted by Bet Victor from 23 to 1 up to 33 to 1. So a really nice boost. So just the 3 legs to come in there. I like the look of it. If you do, have a little flutter, but do gamble responsibly.
I was going to try and pronounce Sam Boswell's name in a foreign accent, but I couldn't really find a way of doing it. But we are going to talk to him from Bet Victor now and see what he's saying ahead of the weekend. Sam, welcome back to the show. 2 huge games this weekend that we're going to focus on. We've just been speaking about Chelsea and Manchester City. What are Bet Victor saying?
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to all the action this weekend. And we get started early. This is a really, really tasty game. I do love your bet boost as well, I've got to say. I think, KDB to score, I can see that, definitely. The cards, I've got no worries about that. Chelsea to win, well, they're at home. I mean, they have looked brilliant. They've obviously shortened for the title as well. 33 to 1. Best of luck, lads. You've had a good time of things so far. But talking through the markets more generally, we can't really split them at the moment. It's 13 to 8, both of them to win. So 11 to 5 the draw, 13 to 8 Chelsea, 13 to 8 City. I'm fascinated by how this is going to go. A really interesting tactical affair, no doubt. We've got a few boosts already on the site. One I quite like, Chelsea to score ahead has been boosted to 11 to 4. Obviously, the likes of Lukaku, absolutely deadly in the box. We've got Chelsea to win, both teams to score 19 to 4. Chelsea to grind out a 1-0 win's been boosted to 9 to 1. But it's going to be a fantastic game. Don't forget, you can use the bet builder on the site as well to create your own. Those are already populated and in there ready to go. We've got the VAR specials as usual. Personally, I think a game of this nature, you're more likely to see a VAR review. It's going to be pretty tense, pretty important to both sides, as you can imagine. And all your traditional markets are there. Lukaku's already been fairly popular in the first goal scorer and the anytime goal scorer bet. The City players, people tend to hold off just a little bit because of the fact that Pep's got a dreadful habit, if you're a fantasy football player as well, enjoying a bit of rotation. So it tends to be after the team news that would see a bit more interest in the City team.
Yeah, he's not my favourite person with that kind of thing, Pep. And I quite like the sound of that header bet after Thiago Silva scored a header last week against Spurs. I think Chelsea looked dangerous from set play, so there's every chance that could come through. The other game is Arsenal against Tottenham. Kind of reversed their fortunes a little bit. Tottenham started well and now look a little bit iffy. Arsenal have picked up and got 2 wins. How did Bet Victor see it?
Yeah, 6 to 5 Arsenal to get the win at home. 9 to 4 the draw. 11 to 5 Spurs. Now, I must say, I think this game's incredibly hard to call, but I would rather probably, I'd love to side with Spurs, but I have my concerns about them at the moment now. The derby should bring out the best in them. Will Harry Kane feature? Obviously, his history in these games is fantastic. I suspect he'll be one of the most popular goal scorer bets with ourselves by the time kickoff comes. But I'd like to see him sparkle a little bit. If he doesn't score in this game, I think people are going to start asking a few questions. In relation to the game, we've got loads of boosts already built in, as well as the bet builder on site as well. Quite interesting. Arsenal to win 4-2, boosted to 110 to 1. If you think there's going to be plenty of goals in the game, that might just about interest you. Spurs to score from outside the box, 17 to 5. Son's not afraid to try and have a pop from distance. Catches the eye a little bit as well as the VAR specials. I think I'm personally going to have a cheeky bet builder on a few cards in this one, try and pick out some players that are going to pick up a yellow or 2. And I do hope we see some goals as well. Arsenal, obviously, off the back of grinding out a tight win last time out. Spurs, a little bit goal shy. I do hope this is the game that we see a few goals in. But it'll be a great weekend. So as ever, we'd encourage people to do gamble responsibly. There's loads of action on to enjoy. Do so responsibly. And fingers crossed, we have an absolutely brilliant weekend of games.
Yeah, I think Kane, with the bookings, I think he's as likely to get booked as he is to score at the moment, so he might be one to look at. Is there any sign-up offers going on for Bet Victor at the moment, Sam?
Yeah, if you head over to betvictor.com, new customer offers will be all on our front page there for yourselves, as well as we've got our loyalty club as well, which rewards existing customers. Do check that out, because it's a lovely little handy thing that we actually give you a little bit of money towards going forward with your betting. A £5 free bet when you bet £5 free 5 bets or more in a week of £5 or more. So like I say, it's all on the website. Do check that out. Get involved. We like to try and reward loyalty as well as anyone that's joining up as a new customer. But best of luck for the weekend. My big game personally is going to be the Palace Brighton game. Very interested to hear your thoughts on that. Looking forward to the rest of the show.
Yeah, I'm sure that offer will be knocking around in the description somewhere. And if it isn't, that's not my fault, because it's nothing to do with me. Sam, thanks ever so much. Always a pleasure to chat to you. It's now time for the Just a Minute section. And Martin, a disaster. I know I had a disaster class last week. How was it all round?
It was pretty awful all round, except for the fact where Jonathan has been slandering the scoring system. And now the correct scores have really come up trumps for him. I think it was 3 correct scores. No, 2 correct scores for Jonathan.
But I was a minute off getting 3 out of 3 on Sunday.
Yeah, 2 correct scores for Jonathan. Another 4 results. So Jonathan got 10 points and has shot from last to first. So this is a roller coaster of a competition. Jonathan completely right in what he said before. Marathon, not a sprint. He's been steady throughout the season. Who scored and you, Dan, all over the place all season. Have had some real highs, but some big lows, and this was the biggest of the lows. 4 points for Who Scored this week, 3 points for Dan, 10 points for Jonathan. So Jonathan now on 43, Dan 41, Who Scored 40, Who Scored now last for the first time. So it's still very close, still all to play.
You can stick your algorithm.
Still in the race, still all in the race. It's all to play for. I mean, we'll obviously see how the predictions go this week. We might have a better idea of what's going to go on after this segment. So we'll start with you, Jonathan. Manchester United against Aston Villa on Saturday lunchtime.
I think the question for United, as it will be all season, is over the midfield. That they've been in danger of being overrun there against Wolves, against Newcastle. We saw against Young Boys. That trying to play Pogba in there just doesn't work. Now the question is, are Villa good enough to take advantage of that? And yes. I think probably they are. Although there are doubts over McGinn, Bailey, Cash and Target, which obviously would cause some problems. Chelsea are the only team who stopped Villa from scoring this season, and that was, as you alluded to earlier, slightly freakish. United have only kept 1 clean sheet this season, which, given they haven't played necessarily the strongest teams, I think must be a concern. This game finished 2-1 to United at Old Trafford last season, although only thanks to a pretty iffy penalty. So I think this may, obviously Villa are better than Newcastle, but I think this may play out a bit like the Newcastle game, where Villa will cause some problems, United have greater firepower, and so I'm going to say United to win 3-1.
I've gone for Manchester United to win 2-1. Martin?
Gone bold, gone big, Dan. 2-2. Getting a point from Old Trafford, yeah.
I mean, one thing that's an absolute certainty in that game is that Manchester United will get a penalty. We may as well start talking about that now, because I've never been more certain of anything in my life. They haven't had one all season. The last 3 games against Villa, they've picked up dodgy penalties, 2 of them very, very suspect. Have we got a tip to do with that, Martin?
Well, that'll be coming up in the treble, which you've just ruined slightly. But
completely killed it. Never mind. Never mind.
Even took my stats to go lead into it as well.
Did I? No.
Yeah. The only other thing, I might as well mention it now. The only other thing to add to it is Mike Dean is the referee. So there you go.
Oh, even better.
Yeah,
absolutely. 1,000 million trillion % Manchester United will get a penalty against Villa on Saturday. I'm laughing about it now. I won't be laughing next week. Martin, I'll let you move on and talk about Everton against Norwich.
Having both suffered somewhat shock defeats last weekend, these sides' woes were compounded by Carabao Cup exits in midweek, so they will be looking to bounce back. Everton will be favourites without question, but remain without the key quartet of Jordan Pickford, Seamus Coleman, Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. As such, Jonathan Wilson favourite Salomon Rondon is set to start 3 games in a week, having not played a game in 4 months previous to that. Norwich should have something close to a full-strength squad by comparison, but the home defeat to relegation rivals Watford last week could be more damaging than any fitness concerns. Tamer Pukki is the only player to have scored for the club in the league this season, and they have now conceded 3 or more goals on 4 occasions already. The Canaries have now lost 15 consecutive matches in the Premier League, which included a 1-0 defeat to Everton during Project Restart. The visitors will take some comfort from the fact that they have been victorious on their last 2 trips to Goodison Park. Indeed, their 2-0 win in this fixture was their only away win of the entire 2019-20 campaign. That said, Everton have come from behind to win both of their home matches this season. I could see that panning out once more. So we've gone for 2-1 to Everton.
I've gone for 2-1 to Everton as well. Jonathan?
I've gone 2-0 to Everton.
2-0 to Everton. I mean,
I love Salomon Rondon.
I mean, I watched him play. I watched him play last week, and there was one cross that came in across the box. I reckon I could have ran down from my seat in the upper hole onto the pitch, and I would have got on the end of that cross. Honestly, he was just absolutely nowhere near it, and he should have been. Right, Jonathan, Leeds against West Ham. Be a good game, that will, Leeds West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, Leeds, I think there's sort of a sense that they're under a bit of pressure, that they probably need a win. But then if you look at the games they've played, it maybe isn't quite as bad as it appears at first. That their own defeats have been to Manchester United and Liverpool, which you'd probably expect. Draw against Everton, I don't think it's a bad result at all. They probably would have wanted more out of Burnley and Newcastle. So there is a sense they need to win, but I think they've got easier fixtures coming up. Their problem is twofold. One, they haven't got the clean sheet yet this season, that those defensive gains they made towards the end of last season seem to have disappeared. And secondly, they are struggling a lot with injuries. So Struijk, Koch, Harrison, all definitely out. Ayling and Bamford are doubts. I did hear a theory this week that they're finding it difficult to communicate with full stadiums. That it's a way of playing very much based on the interaction between players, and they can't shout to each other as easily as they did before. Still no Mikel Antonio suspended for West Ham, so I'm going to say 1-1. West Ham did win both those games last season, though.
I've gone for 1-1 as well. Martin, who scored?
Full house.
3-1. 3-1-1. That communication excuse feels very much like the Manchester United grey kit excuse. I'm not sure I'm buying that at all. It's a strange excuse. Martin, not who scored? You're now going to preview Brentford against Liverpool.
Leicester.
No, you're
Burnley.
not. You're going to do Leicester against Burnley.
Leicester named a strong side in the Cup in midweek and came through their game with Millwall, winning 2-0 despite mustering just 7 shots. The Foxes have actually had the fewest shots in the Premier League this season and conceded the 4th most, perhaps suffering from a second successive late season collapse, I should say. They are at least closer to full fitness, with James Justin and Wesley Fofana the only long-term absentees now. And Patson Daka, who's only made 1 sub-appearance in the league, couldn't even get a start in the Cup, which is quite interesting. Jay Rodriguez scored 4 second-half goals for Burnley in the Carabao Cup as they came from behind to beat Rochdale, and will surely be in the reckoning to start in place of Ashley Barnes as a result. Maxwell Cornet also made a lively full debut in that game, registering an assist. He came off the bench against Arsenal, so will be angling for a start as well. And fellow new signing Connor Roberts got some minutes for the under-23s last week, so he could make the matchday squad for the first time. The Clarets have gone 10 games without an away win at Leicester, last doing so in 2007. They're one of 5 teams without a win and have now failed to win in their opening 5 matches in 3 of the last 4 seasons. They didn't win in Game 6 last season, and it's difficult to see them doing so here either, despite a tough start for the Foxes. We have gone for Leicester 2, Burnley 0.
I've done that. I'm getting predicting the bloody same as everyone. I've gone for 2-0 as well.
2-1.
2-1. I think every prediction I've had has been the same as someone else so far. It's not good after a bad week. I need a recovery. Jonathan, Watford against Newcastle.
Yeah, the Daryl Janmat derby, or the George Riley derby if you're a little bit older. I don't understand what Newcastle must do in training, because no sooner has Carl Darlow come back than Freddie Woodman's out. So being a Newcastle goalkeeper is like being the drummer in Spinal Tap. It's just certain death. Maybe they just don't want to play behind that defence, which I can sort of understand. But I mean, probably the more significant absentee is Callum Wilson, which means that Newcastle are incredibly reliant on Alan Saint-Maximin, and I think that makes him relatively straightforward to stop. Newcastle third bottom at the moment. I think the pressure is really mounting on Steve Bruce, for all that Mike Ashley may want to keep him in the job as being a sort of docile presence. Watford sitting fairly comfortably in 11th, and I think this is a chance for them to get another 3 points. João Pedro and Kiko Firmino, both out for them. But you can sort of see Ismail Assar hitting that space behind Matt Ritchie and getting a run at Kieran Clark. And if that happens, I think Newcastle are doomed. So I'm going to say Watford 2, Newcastle 1.
I've gone for Watford 2, Newcastle 0. Martin, who scored?
1-1. Don't worry, Dan. You're not matching.
Some differences. And to answer Jonathan's question of what do Newcastle do in training, I once watched Steve Bruce training session at the Villa training ground, and they did not do a fat lot. So yeah, they probably don't do very much in training. It was one of the poorest things I've ever seen in my life. I was really surprised by how bad the training session was. It was really, really boring.
Training is really boring to watch. It's one of those things.
This was like extra.
When you're a journalist, you sort of think, "Oh, brilliant! I get to see behind the scenes." And training is so dull. The only thing I've ever seen in training was mildly interesting was watching Chelsea when they was that place out towards Heathrow where they used to train before they moved to Cobham. I was out there once, and Celestine Babayaro could not shoot. And they were doing a very simple shooting drill: play the ball at someone in the edge of the box, get the ball back, have a shot. And like the rest of the squad was sort of. It was being incredibly patronising, kind of celebrating when he did finally score, but it was awful.
Yeah, to be fair, I watched Stuttgart training once. That was better than the Villa training session. I watched under Steve Bruce. So I don't know what that tells you, if anything at all. Martin, you're going to finish with Brentford against Liverpool.
Thomas Frank made 11 changes in the Cup, so a 7-0 victory, albeit over an Oldham side in disarray, will have given the Dane confidence in his squad depth. That said, he will almost certainly revert to the side that earned an excellent 2-0 win at Wolves. Shandon Baptiste could be the exception, having been sent off, but has already served his suspension and will hope to fend off summer signing Frank Onyeka. Konstantinos Tsimikas was the only player to keep his place for the cup win over Norwich for Liverpool, and after another strong showing, he's putting genuine pressure on the fit again Andy Robertson for a starting berth. With the game in Portugal on Tuesday, Klopp may well rest some players once more, with Trent Alexander-Arnold missing out against Palace due to illness, while Thiago and Naby Keita have picked up injuries. Takumi Minamino scored twice in the week and could be in line for a rare league start as a result. This is the first meeting between these sides since 1947, and amazingly, none of the players that started that game are still at their clubs. Liverpool have now lost just one of their last 20 matches in all competitions and won 9 of their last 10 in the league, and 8 of their last 9 on the road to boot. So it's difficult to see an upset, but Brentford won't be pushovers at all. We're backing them to score, but Liverpool to win 3-1.
Bloody hell. I've gone 3-1 to Liverpool as well.
Yeah, 3-1 Liverpool. Yeah,
3-1 full house. And you mentioned your boost. I wanted to ask Jonathan about that last meeting in 1947, if he remembers anything about it. After he was talking about his age earlier.
It was a classic.
Classic
1-1 for what it's worth. Ended 1-1. So.
Was it 1-1? Give us the bet boost then. Is it a bet boost?
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So we've done something very similar before where we actually, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do. We all predicted 1-1 Liverpool-Chelsea, and I asked you who would score. We all said Salah, and that came in at 20-1. Really good win on that bet. So we've gone for very similar this time, and we've stuck, just because it worked last time, we stuck with the same goal scorer, anytime goal scorer, Mo Salah to score anytime, and 3-1 Liverpool win. Salah has obviously started the season on fire, scored in 5 of his 6 games this season. He scored 3 more goals away from home than any other Premier League player since the start of last season. And Liverpool have scored exactly 3 goals in each of their last 4 games. So, 3-1 to Liverpool, and Mo Salah to score has been boosted from 14-1 to 18-1 by Bet Victor. Again, gamble responsibly if you get involved, and we'll put the links in the usual places.
Excellent stuff. Jonathan, you're going to finish us off with Super Sunday, a bizarre choice by Sky Sports, Southampton against Wolves.
Yeah, I find this game really, really difficult to work out what could happen, because I find these 2 teams very difficult to work out. So let's start with Southampton. Pretty well beaten by Everton on the opening day, and 4 draws in a row since then. But 2 of those have been against United and City, where they've actually played really well and look very impressive. The last 2 games have both finished 0-0, so I think there is a problem there with goals. Armstrong, Walcott, Stevens all out, which obviously doesn't help in that regard. Then you look at Wolves, and you sort of have this sense, without watching Wolves particularly intensely, that Wolves are playing well, and yet they failed to score in 4 of their 5 games so far. The game against United, which is the one game where I have watched them, they were really good and deserved to win that one. So, a really hard team to work out. No Otto, no Neto for them, although I guess they're used to that by now. Finished 2-1 to Wolves at St Mary's last time, 1-1 at Molineux. And given I don't really know what's going on, I'm going to say 1-1 again. If in doubt, say 1-1.
Difficult one to call. I've gone for Southampton 0, Wolves 1, based on absolutely nothing. Martin?
If in doubt, say 1-1. So, yeah.
Oh, good. Potential advantage maker for me there. Absolute massive surprise to everyone now is we've got a Saturday treble.
We have, yeah. We've got a Saturday treble.
Does it involve Manchester United and penalties by any chance, Martin?
It does. It does, actually. Yeah, the Who Scored tip is actually, you won't believe it, is for Manchester United to get a penalty. And I don't know if you know, but they've got a penalty in each of their last 3 games against Villa. So, yeah, we're backing that to continue, that trend to continue. Mike Dean's
of course,
the ref.
Mike Dean refereeing. I was about to say that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't mention that either. So Mike Dean's the ref. And yeah, I guess the one thing we haven't learned since Ronaldo's come in is who's going to take those penalties. So I think this is definitely the game that we find that out. So yeah, we're going for Manchester United to get a penalty as our leg of that bet.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. No, everyone will be really surprised to hear about that. Ronaldo's definitely going to take the penalties. There's absolutely no way he's going to let Fernandes take them. Not a chance in hell. My leg of the treble, we've already touched on it a little bit, is Mo Salah to score 2 or more. I fancy that to come in. I think there'll be goals in that game against Brentford. Jonathan?
And I've gone for Everton to beat Norwich to 0, which neither of you think will happen. So
no, we both got Norwich to score.
Bit of pressure on that, but you just don't concede goals. You've got Salomon Rondon in your forward line. That's the way of things. He holds the ball up so well, the opposition just can't score. And he shares his birthday with Lauren Bacall, which is a fact.
Good fact.
How did our treble do last week, Martin?
I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. Having labelled me the bet ruiner. Someone ruined the bet last week, and it wasn't me. It wasn't Who Scored, I should say.
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't Jonathan either.
Oh, it wasn't Jonathan. I thought me and Jonathan.
Who that might be by the powers of
God.
deduction. Yeah, so we had West Ham to lead at any time. They took the lead against Man United. Jonathan's bet was
Brighton to beat Leicester with plus 0.5.
Yeah, so essentially Brighton to win or draw, that came in. And Dan, your bet did not land at all.
I'll redeem myself this week. Don't you worry about that, Martin.
Would you like to apologise to me or no?
I'll apologise to the Who Scored general public.
Okay.
I'm not sure I need to apologise to you, Martin. I'm not sure.
Have I shed my bet ruiner? Are you the bet ruiner now? Do we pass that label on?
Wait there. You weren't here last week.
Well, I still very much get involved in the choosing of the Who Scored bet. Don't you worry about that.
Well, at least I showed it to the podcast. I mean, that's day one stuff there. At least I got that part right. Made the effort having a go at me, Martin. I'm not having that at all. Let's move on then to the North London derby. Arsenal against Tottenham, of course. And Jonathan, I watched Spurs last week against Chelsea. Actually started the game pretty well. Actually, had a good first half Spurs, and then fell away in the second half. It says here Harry Kane looks disinterested. I'm not sure that's true. I think he looks lost.
We've often seen him have slow starts. So he's only ever scored 5 goals in the first month of the season of his 166 Premier League goals. And we know when he comes back from injury, it often takes him a little while to hit his straps. So I don't think it's a massive surprise. Even if it hadn't been all the transfer stuff, I don't think it would be a surprise to see him sort of looking a bit sluggish. But I think the fact that he was so keen to leave means everything will be viewed through that lens. So is he playing badly because it's early in the season? Is he playing badly because he slightly lost a bit of motivation? And that might only be 1 or 2%, but at that level, that can make a big difference. The other problem, I think, is that if you look at Spurs' goals last season, he got 23, Son got 17, Bale got 11. The next highest scorer was Lucas Moura with 3. Bale obviously is gone. Son was injured the game before last. Didn't look fully fit to me last week. So when he drops deep, and there's criticism for dropping deep, which I don't really understand because he's always done that, or he's done that for 3 or 4 years. I think that's a response to the slight lack of pace, slight loss of pace with his ankle injuries. I think that's a good thing for him to have. But it only works if you've got players running beyond him. And if Son's not there, or if Son is not at his best, obviously that has diminished. Bergwijn only got 1 league goal last year, hasn't ever really settled. Lucas Moura, you'd be wanting more than 3 goals from him, although he's obviously had the odd good game here and there, and I don't think he felt his work rate or anything. So I think there's a structural issue added to the doubts about his commitment, plus this early season thing, and I think those go together to make him To mean there was a lot of questions about him at the moment.
Every time you come up with a stat like Bergwijn and he scored one league goal last season, that goal was against Villa. I feel like everything is just an agenda in the world against Aston Villa Football Club. That's absolutely ridiculous. And Martin, I guess the biggest thing for Harry Kane is he doesn't even look like scoring. He's not even in the positions to score.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key. He's not getting in the box. And I guess that's been a trend of his game a little bit over recent seasons, that he has dropped further back, and it's brought out another side of his game and his intelligence in linking the play. He did at one point average 6 touches in the box a game, which is high. This season it's only 2.5. He's only had 10 touches in the box all season. 3 of Liverpool's back 4 have had more touches in the opposition box, for what it's worth. So yeah, he's not getting in the positions. But like the only other thing I'd say, I think, where obviously everything that happened over the summer, it's definitely affected him mentally. I think even for England, obviously he scored in all 3 games. He missed a hatful of chances against Hungary, and I thought his passing was really off. Yeah, even for England. So I just think he's not in rhythm yet. And Jonathan says he does take some time. Scored in the week, so Tottenham fans will obviously be hoping that boosts his confidence. It's quite a surprise that he started that game, I guess. Son was the one that was rested. The other thing I was going to say is that Dele Alli, who started every game under Nuno, he's kept his place throughout, but not really shown anything yet. He's actually not created a single chance in the Premier League in 5 games. Hugo Lloris has created a chance, but then he went and got an assist in the cup as well. So hopefully those 2 can kick on from there. But I know Ndombele scored in the week as well, and maybe he's got a sort of another chance now under Nuno, having seemingly looked to be out of the picture completely. And I think he's really important, just because it gives them that little bit of energy, little bit of something different that Nuno teams definitely need. Because if there isn't that spark that I guess Wolves got from Adama and from Neto at times, then it does look pretty dull. So yeah, let's look forward to this game though. It should be great.
Yeah. I'm not having Dele at all so far this season, or for the last few years. He's not for me at the moment. Arsenal have picked up Jonathan, a couple of wins, and suddenly their Spurs were comfortably ahead after the opening 3 weeks of the season. But Arsenal can complete the transformation, can't they, this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, going into that international break, Tottenham were top and Arsenal were bottom. If Arsenal win by 2, Arsenal go above them, which shows how quickly things can change, I guess, early in the season. But yeah, they without playing brilliantly, they've picked up 2 useful 1-0 wins. We probably wouldn't even consider them, you'd take them as read if they hadn't had such a bad start to beat Norwich and Burnley. But I think particularly going to Burnley and getting the result is good for them. And I think Odegaard's starting to settle in. I think that's got to be a good thing. So yeah, I still, I mean, what are they looking to do this season? 6th at best, which I guess is probably within Tottenham's ambition as well. So this is one of those derbies where it's you sort of feel it's more about sort of parochial bragging rights rather than necessarily kind of actually achieving anything in the table.
Even the way we're talking about the 2 teams is pretty uninspiring, isn't it? We're hardly excited talking about them. I mean, one signing that we all raved about in the summer, Martin, was Aaron Ramsdale. He now appears to be the number 1 for Arsenal. What have you made of that?
Yeah, fair enough. I'm pleased for him, to be fair, because he got stick from all quarters and from us as well. Maybe not stick, but stick for the transfer rather than stick for him and the fee spent. But yeah, I'm surprised he's come in this quickly. Leno not had a great start, but not done anything catastrophic either. So yeah, for him to come in, he kept 3 clean sheets in the 3 games that he's played. Like Jonathan says, it's against modest opposition, but I think it is important that for those 2 league wins, at least, they have had what you would probably consider to be their best back 4 available. So to get 2 clean sheets in those games, Ben White's come back in, and Tomiyasu has started both games at right back. But the one that I think is maybe the most important and maybe got overlooked a little bit last season is Gabriel, just because he got quite a few injuries. Started last season really well, looked really bright, looked like a really good signing. Did make a couple of mistakes after a while and then sort of fell out of the team, got injured. But I looked into their stats with him starting, So they get 1.75 points per game from 24 games when he started, and only 1.32 in 19 without him. Doesn't sound like a huge difference, but over the course of a season, that's 66.5 points over the course of a 38-game season, only 50 without him. So quite a big difference, and their goals conceded drop to 0.96 from 1.32 as well. So big differences in terms of the goals that they concede when he plays. So I think he could be a really, really important player, especially with Ben White coming in. They need a steady centre-back partnership, and certainly this is encouraging signs, at least, that could be it, because I think they're both 23, so they're of an age where they can really sort of grow together. And that's one plus point for Arsenal. Let's shine some positivity on Arsenal for once.
Yeah, let's completely get rid of that positivity now and do the combined 11, because this could be one of the worst combined 11s of all time. So there's nothing excited about picking his team, is there?
It's really hard.
It is. It's a hard team to pick.
There's not because of the quality, though.
There's no holding midfielders.
Well,
I mean, obviously, I won't bother you because Garth cooks it. You know,
we got Højbjerg. Well, I'm counting Højbjerg
playing a 2-0-8 or whatever, but we'll see.
We are playing a 2-0-8, I should say. No, it's a 4-3-3. Hugo Lloris in goal, not really a surprise, I guess. Right back, it's actually Emerson Royal over Tomiyasu. So he had a better season for Betis last season than Tomiyasu for Bologna, according to our ratings. Centre-back is Gabriel alongside Christian Romero, who we haven't really seen much of for Tottenham. Started the game against Chelsea. I don't think he did too badly, but obviously a very hard game to make your sort of full debut. The left-back is probably the contentious one, or people will consider it to be a contentious one. We've got Reguilon over Kieran Tierney. A lot of people really rate Kieran Tierney. I'm not one of them, I must say. I think he's a good left back, but I think Arsenal fans think he's really good based on what's around him, really. I don't think he's particularly outstanding at anything much. He got a lot of credit for wearing a short sleeve t-shirt in the snow, but you're basically just praising someone for being Scottish if that's what you're going to do. He's only got 4 assists in 47 league appearances, sub 80% pass accuracy in each of his league seasons at the club. He's only made 1 tackle and 1 interception this season. Again, Leno and Ramsdale have each made 1 tackle. It's Reguilon, and that's despite him not having a great rating either. I've not been that impressed with Reguilon. I thought he'd be really good from what he did at Sevilla. I thought he looked really bright, but he struggled a little bit. But makes our team. The midfield 3 is Højbjerg, Thomas Partey, and Tonji Ndombele in the 3. Again, that's probably another talking point. Ndombele ahead of Smith Rowe for us, which is give or take, but I do really like Ndombele. And then the front 3 for us is Saka, Kane and Son.
I mean, is it even worth us talking about that? Martin's unnecessary attack on Kieran Tierney aside. It's a very underwhelming.
I'm just getting
team,
in there because I knew people would criticise that selection.
I think that team would be, on current form, would be embroiled in a relegation battle. I'm going to say. Jonathan, what did you think of it?
I had very similar problems and very similar thought processes. So I had Lloris, Tomiyasu, Romero, Gabriel. But Romero and Tomiyasu are sort of, they're not obviously not based on performances for these clubs. I had Reguilon just because there's a doubt over Tierney's fitness, isn't there? So I used that to absolve myself from actually making a decision. Højbjerg, obviously, with great reluctance to pick Thomas Partey just because there's literally nobody else unless you played Odegaard deeper. I went for Odegaard over Smith Rowe, and then the same front 3, Saka, Kane and Son.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Just not very exciting.
No, it really isn't. That has got to be up there as one of the worst of all time. It's not because you've butchered what you've done, Martin, just because I don't think there's a lot to choose from there. Yeah, really, let's move on from that. That's a quite depressing segment I found there. Let's get the predictions then, Jonathan.
2-1 to Arsenal.
2-1 to Arsenal. Martin, who scored?
2-1 as well to Arsenal.
I've gone for 2-1 to Spurs just because I think I've predicted Arsenal to lose every single time. So I'm just going to keep going with that throughout the entirety of the season and see what happens. Yeah, I've gone for Spurs to win 2-1, but I'm not sure even I believe that's going to happen. So let's see what happens on Sunday. Let's finish then with Palace against Brighton, the strange derby that I've completely forgotten why it's a derby, but never mind. We move. Alan
They
Mullery.
basically, they have to put out some sort of documentary or short documentary somewhere to remind people every season why it's a derby.
Yeah, it was. I actually watched the Crystal Palace documentary on Amazon, and it was explained there, and I still can't remember why it's a derby. So it's not a very interesting reason, obviously.
It means a hell of a lot to these clubs.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the main thing. The fans will want to win it, and that's important. First note here, Jonathan, is Basuma is the best midfielder in the Premier League, which we know is false because we know Billy Gilmour is the best midfielder in the world and the Premier League.
In the cold.
Say again?
Billy Gilmour also wears short sleeves in the cold.
There you
Of course
go.
he does. That's what Billy Gilmour's all about. Martin, if you put down the Basuma as the best midfielder in the Premier League, what's that?
Did you not see this?
He just says he's I said the script where he says he is.
He said that. That was a quote direct from Basuma. He was asked who he thought was the best midfielder in the Premier League, and he said that he thought it was him because it was a strange reasoning. He said he thought it was him because that's what he was aiming to be, which suggests that that's not what he is. But he said that he is because he's aiming to be the best. But yeah, a confident lad, and it was a surprise. Well, not a surprise, but a big plus for Brighton that he stayed. There are a lot of teams that are monitoring him. And I rate him highly. I think he's great. He's made the most tackles in the Premier League since the start of last season. He started this season very well. Midfield battle with Conor Gallagher, who's also started the season well. So that'll be one to watch. Gallagher making his first sort of appearance in this derby. He's a really sort of hard-working, feisty midfielder as well. So that could be an interesting battle in the middle of the park.
Well, Basuma is a doubt with a knee injury, though, isn't he?
Is he? I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not definitely out, but he is a doubt.
But Dan, thoughts on Brighton, just because obviously you've got them to be relegated. They're still going to get relegated, I take it.
Yeah, they're still in massive danger. Massive. I have just made sure they're going to have the season of their lives by predicting them to go down. Obviously, Jonathan predicted... Jonathan, he says here, the Wilson v Bardell relegation off. Jonathan's coming off well with his shout so far.
Well, I mean, Palace obviously were very good in dispatching Tottenham eventually once Spurs went down to 10 men. And they were those draws against Brentford and West Ham. I mean, a draw against Brentford, how good a result is that? I don't know. I'm not quite sure what Brentford are yet this season. But certainly getting the point away at West Ham was a big thing. So maybe Palace will be better than I feared. But it was just the speed of change felt dangerous to me. But yeah, Brighton. Brighton haven't really played anybody yet. Leicester, I guess, but Leicester with a lot of injuries or players just coming back from injury, and even then they were pretty fortunate with a couple of refereeing decisions in that game. But it's 4 wins. Their 4th win last season didn't come till the end of January, so it's been a great start. And obviously they're not safe from relegation, but there's no immediate pressure, and there won't be for quite a long time. So they can hopefully get closer to their XG than they managed last season.
Yeah, and let's bring it back around to the pronunciations, Martin. Odesson Edouard, is that right?
Odesson. Are you adding vowels? I don't know.
I'm trying to be as French as possible.
We're definitely Edouard.
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 You think it's time for him to start in that game now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think obviously I thought it was fair that Benteke kept his place because I thought he did play well in that Tottenham game as sort of he does bully defenders for a while, and that can help for a sub coming on to then sort of exploit their sort of fatigue or physical or mental fatigue. But yeah, you would expect him to come in sooner rather than later. Big game to do so if he does. So yeah, it'd be interesting. But yeah, I think Zaha is always the player to watch in this game, isn't he? He knows all about this derby, that's for sure. He's one of the easiest players to fire up. I'm not sure there's an easier player to sort of get riled up in any game. So we do have a bet related to Wilf Zaha for this game boosted. We've got Wilf Zaha to score and be booked in the game. And that's based on the fact that Brighton are his favourite opponent when it comes to goals. So he does step up to the plate in this game. 7 goals in 13, including 4 in 4 Premier League appearances at Selhurst Park against Brighton. And he's only been booked more times against Watford in his career than Brighton. He's been booked 5 times against Brighton. This has happened twice before that he's scored and been booked in the same game. So yeah, a little sort of cheeky one. Been boosted from 11 to 1 to 15 to 1. if you fancy that. Gamble responsibly. Again, links below. But yeah, I fancy that. I like Zaha in these games. He's one that does really care about this sort of derby, and that can play out in different ways, obviously, with the ref.
Bet of the day, that one. He could score, take his shirt off, and then that bet.
Exactly, yeah, you're done.
That bet is in. That's my prediction of what will happen. Give me a score prediction, Jonathan.
1-1.
1-1. Martin, who scored?
2-2.
2-2. Ooh.
Yeah.
I've gone for Palace to beat Brighton 2-0. Brighton can't keep doing this to me. There's absolutely no way. I can just keep predicting them to lose, and they just keep winning. Because at some point, they're going to lose a game, and I'm going to be on easy street. I think that does us for the best football podcast that there is. I'm going to do a Basuma because that's what I'm aiming for this podcast to be. So thanks to Jonathan.
Good luck with that.
That's high praise indeed for someone who does about a 12 football podcast. So appreciate it.
I do. Jonathan does a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah, but he didn't make that claim, to be fair.
No, that's true. I'm just doing a Basuma, and I'm sure this one, out of everything Jonathan does, is his absolute favourite, spending an hour with the two of us, Martin. Thanks ever so much for watching the show. If you're not already subscribed with your post notifications on, then if you could do that, that would really help the channel grow. Whatever you're watching, wherever you're going at the weekend, stay safe and enjoy all the football.